Most cities have some level of air pollution, but these places take it to a whole other level. From thick industrial smog to choking dust storms. Join me, I'm gonna count down 15 places with unbelievable air pollution. Starting with number 15, Linfen in China. Linfen, located in Shanxi province, has long been associated with some of the worst air pollution levels recorded in the world. Once known as the coal capital of China, Linfen sits at the heart of a major coal-producing region. For decades, its economy has relied heavily on coal mining and the operation of small-scale, often unregulated coking plants. These facilities emit huge quantities of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulates into the air. In the early 2000s, they gained international attention when it topped a list compiled by the Blacksmith Institute, now called Pure Earth, of the world's most polluted cities. Residents reported that they couldn't even open their windows without letting in thick, acrid smoke, and many schools and businesses limited their outdoor activities. Government data and independent monitoring consistently showed dangerously high levels of fine particulate matter, small enough to penetrate deep into your lungs and even into your bloodstream. At peak times, the air quality index in Linfen regularly exceeded 500. That's the upper limit of most air quality scales. In response to growing scrutiny, the government there launched environmental reforms in Linfen and other heavily polluted cities. A number of small coal plants were closed and stricter emission standards were enforced. Now, while these attempts have had measurable impact, the particulate levels have decreased significantly since the early 2010s, but it still struggles with pollution, particularly during the winter heating seasons. Linfen serves as a case study in the environmental cost of rapid industrialization. Its struggles are representative of broader challenges faced by cities in developing countries. Despite improvements, Linfen's air remains among the most polluted in China, and its residents continue to face significant health risks. Number 14, Lahore, Pakistan. Lahore, Pakistan's second-largest city, has experienced some severe and worsening air pollution in recent years. They're located near the Indian border in the Punjab province. Lahore is a dense urban center with more than 11 million people. It's a combination of vehicular emissions, industrial output, crop burning, and geography all contribute to the city's persistent air quality problems. Air quality data consistently shows extremely high levels of PM 2.5 and PM 10 in Lahore, and that's usually from October to February. And in 2022 and 2023, the city frequently ranked among the top 3 most polluted cities in the world according to IQ Air. Vehicular traffic is a major contributor. The city's transportation infrastructure is under strain, and a large portion of vehicles are old and poorly maintained. Another major factor is the annual burning of agricultural residue in the surrounding areas of Punjab, both in Pakistan and across the border in India. Health officials have warned that prolonged exposure to their air pollution increases the risk of respiratory infections, heart disease, stroke, and cancer. Children and the elderly are particularly vulnerable here. Despite the growing awareness, though, enforcement of environmental regulations is pretty weak. Although the provincial government has launched anti-smog campaigns and ordered temporary shutdowns, these measures have often short-lived and inconsistently applied. Lahore exemplifies the complex mix of urbanization, agriculture, and governance that makes tackling air pollution in South Asia particularly difficult. For now, Lahore remains one of the world's most polluted cities, with millions of people breathing air that poses serious health risks. Number 13, Norilsk, Russia. Norilsk, located above the Arctic Circle in Siberia, is one of the northernmost cities in the world. It was established in the 1930s as a gulag labor camp. It became the center of Russia's nickel industry. Today, it's home to Norilsk Nickel, one of the largest producers of nickel and palladium in the world. One of the key contributors to their air pollution problem is sulfur dioxide. The city emits approximately 1.9 million tons of SO2 annually, more than all of France. Sulfur dioxide is a dangerous gas. It can irritate your respiratory system, cause acid rain, and reduce visibility by forming fine particulate matter. The air quality here in Norilsk frequently exceeds safe levels as outlined by the WHO. Independent studies have measured particulate matter and metals like lead, cadmium, and dangerously high concentrations. The effects on public health are serious. In 2016, a shocking incident drew global attention here when the Daldaikan River near Norilsk turned blood red due to a leak from a Norilsk nickel plant. The incident, although primarily related to water pollution, highlighted the city's broader environmental hazards. The economic dependence of Norilsk on heavy industry is a major challenge. The local population here, numbering over 180,000, relies on the industry for jobs, housing, and social infrastructure. This city is an example of the environmental cost of resource extraction in these extreme climates, and while efforts have been made to contain some of the worst emissions, the city is one of the most polluted places on Earth, particularly in the terms of sulfur dioxide concentrations. Number 12. New Delhi, India. New Delhi in India regularly ranks among the most polluted cities in the world. With a population of over 30 million people and rapid expansion, the city faces intense air quality challenges. One of the primary contributors to this pollution is vehicular emissions. The city has millions of vehicles, many of which are older and less efficient. Despite the adoption of compressed natural gas or CNG for buses and auto rickshaws, the volume of traffic here and the slow pace of vehicle inspections contribute to high emissions. Another major cause is construction dust. The city's booming development releases large amounts of dust into the air. Additionally, open burning of waste, both by individuals and municipal services, contributes to the problem, particularly in low-income and informal settlements. Industrial emissions and the operation of coal-fired power plants around the Delhi National Capital Region further compound the issue, though some plants have been ordered to install flue gas desulfurization units or just shut down during pollution spikes. The compliance is inconsistent, though. The health consequences in New Delhi are pretty alarming. Residents experience high rates of asthma, chronic bronchitis, and cardiovascular disease. Children are really vulnerable, with research showing reduced lung development. According to The Lancet, air pollution was responsible for nearly 1.7 million premature deaths in India in 2019. To combat this crisis, the Indian government launched the National Clean Air Program, NCAP, which aims to reduce PM concentrations by 20 to 30% by 2026. Locally, Delhi government has experimented with short-term measures like the odd-even vehicle rotation, temporary bans on construction, and the distribution of air purifiers to schools. Without any major structural changes to transportation, agriculture, and urban planning, the air crisis in India's capital is likely to persist. Number 11. Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia, and it faces some of the worst seasonal air pollution in the world. Though the city has a relatively small population, about 1.6 million, the air quality here deteriorates sharply during the winter months due to the widespread use of coal for heating. The primary source of pollution is the burning of raw coal by residents living in the informal settlements called gear districts. These areas, which house about 60% of the city's population, are not connected to the central heating grid. As a result, households rely on small stoves that burn raw coal. These stoves emit large amounts of particulate matter, which is dangerous due to its ability to penetrate deep into your lungs. In winter, the levels there often exceed 1,000 micrograms per cubic meter. That's 40 times higher than the WHO recommended limit. The health impacts are serious and widespread. Respiratory infections are the leading cause of death for children under 5 in the city, and studies by UNICEF and the World Bank have linked Ulaanbaatar's air pollution to increased cases of asthma, bronchitis, and developmental issues in children. Efforts have been made to expand the city's heating infrastructure, improve energy efficiency, and promote cleaner tech. However, enforcement is inconsistent and infrastructure changes are progressing slowly. Despite all the efforts, Ulaanbaatar remains one of the most polluted cities during winter. The unique combination of extreme cold here, geographic limitations, and socioeconomic dependence on coal creates a seasonal air quality crisis that just significantly affects public health and your quality of life. Number 9. Tehran, Iran. Tehran is the capital of Iran and home to more than 9 million people in the city proper and about 15 million people in the greater metropolitan area, and it consistently ranks among the world's most polluted urban centers. One of the leading sources of their air pollution is vehicular emissions. Despite some efforts in the early 2000s to improve fuel quality and vehicle standards, the city continues to struggle with an aging vehicle fleet. More than 70% of cars in Tehran are older than 10 years, and many don't meet modern emission standards. Another factor is their fuel quality. Despite being a major oil producer, Iran has faced chronic issues with fuel refining. This results in elevated emissions of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and fine particulate matter. Fuel smuggling and black market activity in fuel sales further complicate regulation and quality control. Industrial emissions also play a role in their air quality. Tehran hosts a number of industrial zones within and on the outskirts of the area, including cement factories, steel plants, refineries, and chemical processing facilities. Construction dust, too, is another contributor to their pollution. The city has expanded rapidly in the past 3 decades, and new housing developments and commercial projects continually generate dust. Government responses to this crisis have varied over the years. Temporary solutions like odd-even driving restrictions that's based on license plate numbers, school closures, and factory shutdowns have been implemented during severe events. While these measures provide temporary relief, they don't address the root causes. Iran has made some efforts towards cleaner air, the introduction of the Euro 4 standard fuel in parts of the city, and a gradual phase-out of two-stroke motorcycles represents steps forward. NGOs and civil society groups regularly advocate for cleaner air and greater transparency, but their influence is limited. Without substantial investment in clean technology, emissions control, and enforcement, the city's residents will likely continue to suffer from hazardous air quality for the foreseeable future. Number 8. Jakarta in Indonesia. Jakarta is Indonesia's sprawling capital of over 11 million people and about 30 million in the greater metropolitan area. It regularly ranks among the most polluted cities in Southeast Asia. One of the big contributors here is the massive fleet of vehicles. The city adds thousands of new cars and motorcycles to its roads each day. As of 2024, the city had over 24 million registered vehicles, many of which are older, poorly maintained, and lack modern emission controls. Jakarta's traffic congestion is infamous. Commuters spend hours each day just idling in gridlocked traffic, increasing emissions in concentrated areas. But beyond that transportation issue, Jakarta's industrial zones do contribute heavily to their air pollution. Located both within and just outside the city boundaries, zones house textile factories, cement plants, metalworks, and chemical processing facilities. Many of those industries use coal or diesel as their primary energy source. Also, open burning of waste, both household and industrial, remains a source of toxic emissions. Despite bans on open-air burning, enforcement is weak, and burning is widespread, especially in informal settlements. Plastics, rubber, and organic matter are commonly incinerated, and they produce hazardous chemicals like dioxins. And meteorological conditions in Jakarta worsen all the situations. The city has a tropical monsoon climate, which brings alternating periods of heavy rain and long dry spells. And during the dry season, pollutants accumulate in the stagnant air, and while the city's low elevation and coastal humidity trap particulates close to the ground. Thermal inversions during the early morning and late evening hours are common, further preventing dispersion of any pollutants. The health consequences here are significant. Studies found increased rates of asthma, bronchitis, and lung infections among children, and adults suffer higher rates of heart disease and stroke. Economic costs are mounting too. Air pollution contributes to lost workdays, school absences, and healthcare expenditures. A study by the World Bank estimated that the economic impact of air pollution here in Indonesian cities amounts to billions of dollars annually, with Jakarta bearing the largest burden. Their air pollution is the result of a fast-growing urban population, inadequate infrastructure, reliance on fossil fuels, and lax environmental enforcement. While there have been legal victories and pilot projects, a large-scale transformation is needed to meaningfully reduce pollution. Without some comprehensive reforms, millions of Jakarta's residents are going to continue to breathe unsafe air every day. Moving on to number 7, Accra in Ghana. Accra is the capital of Ghana, and it's one of the most rapidly urbanizing cities in West Africa. While it may not rank among the top polluted cities in the world by conventional metrics like the particulate matter, Accra suffers from acute and persistent air pollution, caused by a combination of local emissions, environmental mismanagement, and a unique and alarming factor: the world's largest electronic waste dump. The presence of this informal recycling hub makes Accra a case study in the global problem of transboundary pollution. Accra's population has grown rapidly, now exceeds 5 million in its greater metropolitan area, and this expansion has brought increased traffic, construction, and, of course, energy demands. The electronic waste dump became infamous in the 2000s when investigative reports revealed it had become a dumping ground for electronic waste, or e-waste, much of it imported from Europe and North America. Although international laws such as the Basel Convention prohibit the export of hazardous waste to developing countries, Many developing nations have circumvented the rules by labeling shipments as used electronics for resale. In practice, the majority of these items are broken or obsolete, arriving in Ghana as non-functional e-waste. The burning process of this waste emits a complex cocktails of pollutants, fine particulate matter, dioxins, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Plus, heavy metals like lead, mercury, and cadmium are just released into the air. Satellite imagery and field measurements by environmental agencies have shown that air quality around this place is consistently poor. The Ghanaian government has taken steps to dismantle and relocate parts of this waste dump, and in 2021, controversial demolition of the site took place, with authorities claiming that they would redevelop the land and shift recycling activities to a more regulated industrial park. However, critics argue that this action displaced thousands of workers without providing them with real alternatives. Many waste pickers simply moved to adjacent informal sites, continuing the same practices. Another major source of air pollution here is biomass burning. Many households use charcoal and wood for cooking, especially in informal settlements and low-income areas. These cooking methods emit significant amounts of carbon monoxide, black carbon, and other pollutants. Construction dust too, unpaved roads, and open-air waste burning throughout the city contribute to even more background levels of airborne particles. Waste management here is insufficient for the size of its population. The health effects of Accra's pollution is increasingly evident. Respiratory diseases are among the leading causes of outpatient visits. Long-term effects, like those caused by heavy metals and dioxins, are harder to quantify, but are likely to include developmental delays and chronic illnesses. Their pollution is a complex crisis that's rooted in global inequality, economic survival, and infrastructure deficits. Its problems won't be solved solely by local reforms. As long as developed countries continue exporting hazardous materials and the local enforcement remains underfunded, places like this will remain environmental flashpoints. The path forward requires international cooperation, economic investment in green jobs, and community-focused public health strategies. Without these, Accra's air will remain a silent threat to millions of its people. Number 6. Milan, Italy. Milan, one of Italy's most important cultural centers, often surprises outsiders by ranking as one of the most polluted cities in Western Europe. With a population exceeding 3 million, Milan faces a chronic air quality crisis, especially in the winter months. The most prominent pollutant here in Milan is particulate matter. These tiny particles can penetrate deep into your lungs and bloodstream, leading to cardiovascular and respiratory disease. Data from the European Environment Agency consistently shows Milan exceeding both the EU and WHO air quality limits during winter. Vehicular traffic is also a primary contributor. Milan has a dense network of private cars, delivery trucks, and public transportation vehicles, and diesel-powered vehicles common throughout Italy are particularly problematic. In an attempt to improve air quality, Milan launched the Area C initiative in 2012. This congestion charge zone required drivers to pay a fee to enter the historic city center. It's been modestly successful in reducing traffic volume within the area, but many residents still drive older vehicles outside the zone. Milan's industrial outskirts houses facilities that manufacture chemicals, rubber, metals, and ceramics, and while these plants are regulated under EU environmental standards, enforcement and inspection frequency vary. When temperature inversions set in, emissions from these plants adds to the background levels of pollution. In response to all these findings, the regional government of Lombardy, which includes Milan, has launched several air quality improvements. These include subsidies for home heating upgrades, diesel vehicle trade-in programs, and tree planting initiatives. And despite those efforts, progress has been incremental. Public awareness of air quality has grown thanks in part to the availability of real-time data. Citizen movements and NGOs frequently organize campaigns to pressure policymakers, and a growing number of residents are calling for stricter diesel bans. Milan's pollution problem isn't the result of one single cause, but rather a convergence of transportation habits, energy systems, industrial history, and environmental conditions. While the city has made some progress through congestion controls, achieving lasting improvement is going to require deeper changes in how the city heats homes, regulates traffic, and enforces industrial emissions. Number 5. Kolkata, India. Kolkata, formerly known as Calcutta, is one of the largest cities in India and a major economic and cultural hub in the eastern part of that country. With a metropolitan population exceeding 14 million people, Kolkata is plagued by chronic air pollution. The primary cause here is the high concentration of particulate matter. According to data from the Central Pollution Control Board and the World Air Quality Index, Kolkata's PM 2.5 levels routinely exceed safe limits, especially in winter. During peak pollution episodes, concentrations can climb above 200 micrograms per cubic centimeter, far exceeding the WHO recommended safe threshold. Vehicular emissions are one of the dominant sources of air pollution in Kolkata. The city has a massive number of vehicles on the road. Two-stroke auto rickshaws, diesel-powered buses are particularly notorious for producing high levels of nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, and particulates. Although the city banned commercial vehicles older than 15 years in 2008 and phased out two-stroke auto rickshaws in 2009, enforcement has been inconsistent, and illegal or non-compliant vehicles remain a significant problem. Solid fuel burning in residential areas is also a major source of pollution. Many households in the city's poorer districts continue to rely on biomass like wood, cow dung, or coal for cooking and heating. This not only affects your indoor air quality but also contributes to the ambient pollution. The health effects here are alarming. According to the Global Burden of Disease study, Kolkata's air pollution is responsible for thousands of premature deaths each year. Hospital admissions for asthma, bronchitis, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease spike during the winter months. And another area of concern is the open burning of waste. Despite official bans, garbage burning remains widespread, especially in peripheral areas and informal settlements. Plastic, rubber, and organic waste are set on fire in open plots near drainage canals, releasing dangerous toxins into the air. Kolkata's air pollution is emblematic of the challenges faced by many Indian cities: rapid urbanization, outdated infrastructure, poor enforcement, and dependence on fossil fuels. While the problem is technically solvable, the political will, financial investment, and public engagement required to implement the reforms have yet to materialize at scale. Until they do, millions of Kolkatans will continue to breathe air that endangers their lives. Number 4. Belgrade, Serbia. Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, is often overlooked in global air quality discussions, yet it consistently ranks among Europe's most polluted cities. With a population of about 1.4 million in the city proper and over 2 million in the metropolitan region, Belgrade experiences a dangerous combination of air pollutants due to coal-based energy, aging infrastructure, and outdated heating systems. Serbia has one of the highest rates of household solid fuel use in Europe. In Belgrade, this reliance on outdated heating systems peaks during the winter, leading to thick smog that envelops entire districts. The energy infrastructure here also contributes to the problem. Serbia generates a substantial portion of its electricity from lignite coal, among the dirtiest of the fossil fuels. Transportation is another growing concern. The number of vehicles in Belgrade has surged in recent years, with many cars being imported secondhand from Western Europe. Public transportation consists of mainly buses, trams, and trolleys, many of which are outdated and run on diesel too. Health impacts are serious and growing. A report by the Serbian Environmental Protection Agency found that air pollution causes over 1,300 premature deaths annually in Belgrade alone. Respiratory illness, including asthma, bronchitis, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, are common. Government initiatives have included banning certain types of coal. However, implementation has been slow and enforcement remains weak. EU accession efforts have placed pressure on Serbia to align it with European environmental standards, but compliance is still partial. While there are no quick fixes or targeted reforms, like accelerating public transit electrification, regulating heating fuels, that could meaningfully reduce pollution. Without such efforts, Belgrade will continue to struggle with winter smog and year-round exposure to harmful air. Number 3. Cairo, Egypt. Cairo is the most populous city in the Arab world and one of the largest metropolitan areas on Earth, home to over 20 million people. Air pollution here is not only a chronic issue, it's one of the city's most pressing environmental and public health challenges. The scope of the pollution here is difficult to overstate. According to World Health Organization and the World Bank, Cairo consistently ranks among the most polluted megacities in terms of PM10 and PM2, the particulate measurement, the two primary categories of particulate matter. The first and most visible culprit is the transportation. Cairo's streets are choked with traffic, and the majority of vehicles on the road are outdated, poorly maintained, and lack proper emissions controls. Efforts to modernize public transport, like the expansion of the Cairo Metro and the introduction of newer bus fleets, have been underway for years. Ride-sharing services have proliferated, but this has added to overall traffic congestion rather than alleviated it. Perhaps the most overlooked but equally damaging contributor here is waste burning. Cairo produces more than 15,000 tons of solid waste each day, much of which goes uncollected or is dumped in open areas, canals, or unofficial landfills. In many parts of the city, especially poorer neighborhoods, waste is simply burned in the open to clear space. The practice is technically illegal, but enforcement is rare, and it remains one of the fastest-growing sources of pollution for the city. Pregnant women exposed to high levels of pollution in Cairo are at increased risk of miscarriage, low birth weight, and complications during delivery. And in response to these mounting problems, the government there has launched several air quality initiatives over the past 2 decades. These programs included measures like the installation of air quality monitoring stations, restrictions on certain industrial emissions, and limited bans on older diesel vehicles. Cairo's air pollution problem is emblematic of the challenges faced by urbanizing megacities across the global south. It combines outdated technology, weak governance, and environmental neglect. Solving it's going to require a holistic, sustained approach that prioritizes health and embraces clean technology. Until that transformation takes root, however, millions of Cairo residents will continue to live under a permanent veil of pollution. Number 2. Hotan, China. Hotan, located in China's western Uyghur Autonomous Region, is one of the most remote and least urbanized areas in the country. It is a city steeped in history, lying along the ancient Silk Road and serving as a hub of trade and cultural exchange. Despite the isolation, though, it's earned an unfortunate distinction in recent years. It's been ranked the most polluted city in the world in terms of PM 2.5 concentrations. The most obvious factor behind this pollution is the geographic location. It sits on the southern edge of the Taklamakan Desert, one of the largest shifting sand deserts on Earth. This desert spans over 300,000 square kilometers, and it contributes vast amounts of airborne dust and sand. But this desert dust is only part of the story. While some might be tempted to categorize its air pollution as natural, this would be a serious oversimplification. The rapid expansion of agriculture and infrastructure, as driven by central government investment, has significantly increased both emissions and the conditions that worsen the particulate pollution. Industrial activity, though relatively small compared to major Chinese cities, has grown significantly in recent years. As part of China's Go West campaign and the Belt and Road Initiative, new roads and industrial parks have been built around Hotan. Urban planning is beginning to incorporate some green space development, including the planting of shelter belts and the creation of green walls to slow down dust transport, and these efforts have shown some success in reducing coarse dust. There's potential for renewable energy to play a larger role in reducing emissions. Hotan and the broader region are rich in solar and wind resources, and several large-scale projects have been proposed. Satellite data from NASA's Sentinel programs have helped reveal the scale of the particulate transport here. These observations have prompted calls for better regional air quality coordination. Still, though, translating scientific insight into policy action remains slow in China. Hotan's pollution crisis is not the result of a single factor, but the convergence of natural, political, and environmental pressures. Though it receives far less international media attention than cities like New Delhi or Beijing, the severity of the air pollution here makes it one of the most challenging. In many ways, Hotan stands as the symbol of a new frontier in global pollution, a reminder that the world's most polluted places are no longer just the biggest cities, it's also the most remote and geopolitically sensitive regions. Number 1. Ghaziabad, India. Alright, we're back in India. Ghaziabad, it's located in the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. It's gained a grim international reputation. It's situated just outside India's capital, New Delhi, and it forms part of the broader National Capital Region. Ghaziabad consistently ranks among the most polluted cities in the world. In multiple years, Ghaziabad has been ranked by the World Air Quality Report published by IQ Air as the most polluted city on Earth in terms of PM 2.5 concentrations. Their annual average readings have often exceeded 100 micrograms per cubic meter. That's 20 times the World Health Organization's revised safe guidelines of 5 micrograms per cubic meter. The sources here of this pollution are multifaceted. One of the most significant contributors is vehicular traffic. Public transport, too, is a contributor, although metro connectivity has improved in recent years, particularly with extensions of the Delhi Metro Red and Blue lines. As more middle and low-income families relocate here to these sprawling housing complexes, vehicle ownership continues to rise. Agriculture, too, burning in neighborhood states like Punjab and Haryana, also have seasonal impact on their air quality. Each autumn, farmers in these regions set fire to their fields to clear crop residue. That's a practice known as stubble burning, and the resulting smoke plumes travel hundreds of kilometers. A 2019 report by the Center for Science and Environment noted that children in Ghaziabad and neighboring cities showed reduced lung function compared to those in less polluted regions. But despite this bleak outlook, steps are being taken to address the crisis, albeit slowly and unevenly. Under the NCAP, Ghaziabad is tasked with reducing levels by 20 to 30% over 5 years, and action plans include better waste management, stricter vehicle emissions, and more green spaces. But one of the greatest challenges remains balancing economic growth with environmental health. Similarly, the city's construction boom is seen as a symbol of upward mobility and modernization, making it politically difficult to impose rigid constraints. But what makes the problem so tragic is that it encapsulates the very paradox of 21st century development in emerging economies, the pursuit of economic progress through urban growth. Unless air quality becomes a top-tier issue in urban policy, not just in name, but in budget, enforcement, and leadership, cities like this one are going to remain stuck in a cycle of emergency measures and marginal improvements. Until then, though, Ghaziabad will remain a cautionary tale, a place where the air is thick not only with dust and diesel, but with the urgency of action that is yet to arrive.